Before we get started, want to win a free Bible? We're giving away Bibles in our subscriber drawing. To enter, just like this video, subscribe and drop a comment below. Winners will be randomly selected. Don't miss out. The book of 2 Kings tells a gripping story. A story of empires rising and falling, of flawed rulers and faithful prophets, of rebellion, exile, and the enduring call of a righteous God. Spanning nearly 3 centuries, from the death of King Ahaziah around 853 BC to the devastating fall of Jerusalem in 586 BC, it reveals the spiritual, political, and moral struggles of 2 kingdoms, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Bound by a divine covenant, these nations often faltered. Kings ruled with pride, prophets warned with passion, and foreign powers, Assyria and Babylon, loomed on the horizon. This is a story of power and its corruption, of faith tested by fire, and of a God who, despite his people's rebellion, continues to extend his promise of restoration. The lessons of 2 Kings still echo today. Power without righteousness brings ruin, but faithfulness holds the key to redemption. As we journey through these ancient pages, we will witness kingdoms fall, but hope rise. 853 BC. The northern kingdom of Israel stands divided and fragile. King Ahaziah lies dying, having fallen from his palace window. But instead of seeking the God of Israel, he turns to foreign idols for answers. The prophet Elijah condemns this idolatry. His words are final. You shall not leave the bed you lie on. You will surely die. 2 Kings 1 verse 4. And so, with Ahaziah's death, Israel plunges deeper into turmoil. But Elijah's time draws to a close. At the Jordan River, before the watchful eyes of his successor, Elisha, Elijah is taken, ascending to heaven in a chariot of fire. Israel's greatest prophet is gone, but the spirit of his mission lives on. Elisha rises. His miracles echo Elijah's power. Bitter waters at Jericho are healed. Oil for a poor widow multiplies. Yet the kingdom's heart remains hardened. But the house of Ahab, the dynasty of a king who led Israel into deep sin, still sits on the throne. Divine judgment is near. 841 BC. Jehu, a fierce commander, rises as God's chosen instrument of judgment. His chariot thunders toward Jezreel. The fate of Ahab's bloodline is sealed. Jezebel, queen and symbol of defiance, stands atop her balcony. With defiant eyes and painted face, she taunts Jehu. But judgment comes swiftly. Pushed from the window, she falls. The ground stains red. Dogs devour her remains, fulfilling Elijah's chilling prophecy. Jehu's wrath does not stop there. He slays King Joram, Ahab's son, and eradicates every trace of Ahab's dynasty. The temple of Baal is torn down, its idols reduced to ash. But despite the bloodshed and the downfall of Ahab's house, Israel's rebellion endures. The people's hearts remain hardened. Idolatry festers. The path to exile begins. As Israel crumbled in the north, Judah in the south stood as a fragile beacon of God's covenant. Yet even Judah's walls could not keep out the temptations of power and idolatry. This is the story of Judah's kings, a tale of ambition, faith, and the fight for survival. After the fall of Ahab's dynasty in Israel, Queen Athaliah, daughter of Jezebel, seized power in Judah. Her goal? To destroy the royal Davidic line, threatening God's covenant promise. But God's plan would not be thwarted. Jehoiada the priest led a bold rebellion, crowning the child Joash king, ensuring David's line endured. Athaliah, Judah's only queen, was executed at the palace gates. King Joash began his reign with faith and purpose, restoring the temple, reviving worship. Yet, after Jehoiada's death, Joash strayed, turning to idols. His betrayal of God's law cost him his life, assassinated by his own officials. A century later, Judah faced its greatest threat, Assyria, the empire that had destroyed Israel. Yet Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, chose faith over fear. He tore down altars to foreign gods, trusting solely in Yahweh. As Sennacherib's forces ravaged Lachish, Hezekiah's trust was tested. But in the stillness of Jerusalem's night, the angel of the Lord struck the Assyrian camp. 185,000 soldiers perished. Judah stood, saved by faith alone. But Hezekiah's story did not end there. Stricken with illness, he cried out to God, and was granted 15 more years of life. As a sign, the sun's shadow reversed, a miracle proclaiming God's power over time itself. Yet pride crept in. When envoys from Babylon arrived, Hezekiah showed them all his riches, a decision that would echo in Judah's downfall. Judah's kings rose and fell, some faithful, others flawed. Yet even righteous Hezekiah could not undo generations of rebellion. The shadow of Babylon loomed, and Judah's fate hung in the balance. The journey continues from faith to exile, and the lessons written across the sands of history. As the northern kingdom of Israel drifted further from its covenant with God, the Assyrian Empire loomed to the north, ruthless, powerful, and relentless in its expansion. The final chapter of Israel's history began with King Hoshea. Hoshea, the last king of Israel, ruled during turbulent times. Though he paid tribute to Assyria, he conspired with Egypt for freedom. This defiance, however, would seal Israel's fate. In 724 BC, Assyria besieged Samaria. For 3 years, Israel's capital withstood the siege, but hunger and despair wore down its defenses. Finally, in 722 BC, Samaria fell. The northern kingdom, after 2 centuries of existence, was no more. The victors did more than conquer a city. The Assyrians exiled Israel's tribes, scattering them across the empire. Foreigners were brought in, creating a new population. These became known as the Samaritans, a people with mixed heritage and faith. The fall of Israel is more than a historical event. It is a solemn warning. Idolatry, broken covenants, and political intrigue led to their downfall. But even in loss, the story continues, a lesson echoed throughout history. Disobedience brings judgment, yet hope remains for restoration. Israel's fall to Assyria marked a turning point. But what awaited Judah? Could they avoid the same fate? Continue with us as we explore the final chapters of 2 Kings, where faith, failure, and prophecy collide. Judah stood at a crossroads. The once great nation, though battered by internal strife and foreign threats, still held onto a flicker of hope. Reform was on the horizon, but the clock was ticking. The rise of a new empire, Babylon, would soon overshadow Jerusalem's last days. In 640 BC, a young king named Josiah ascended the throne of Judah. Unlike his father Amon and grandfather Manasseh, who led Judah into deep idolatry, Josiah sought to return his people to the ways of the Lord. With the rediscovery of the Torah, Josiah called for national repentance. He restored the temple, eradicated idol worship, and led Judah in celebrating the greatest Passover since the time of Samuel. But despite his faithfulness, judgment against Judah was inevitable. In 609 BC, Judah's last righteous king made a fatal mistake. Pharaoh Necho of Egypt was marching to aid the crumbling Assyrian Empire against Babylon. Against all warnings, Josiah intercepted the Egyptians at Megiddo. There, Judah's last great hope was slain. With Josiah's death, Judah spiraled into instability. His sons Jehoahaz, Jehoiakim, and Zedekiah failed to walk in his ways. Babylon was rising, and soon Judah would be caught in a storm. After Josiah's death, Pharaoh Necho placed Jehoiakim on the throne of Judah as his puppet. But in 605 BC, a new superpower emerged, Babylon, led by Nebuchadnezzar II. When Babylon defeated Egypt at Carchemish, Jehoiakim switched allegiances, making Judah a vassal of Babylon. In 597 BC, after Jehoiakim's rebellion, Nebuchadnezzar besieged Jerusalem. Jehoiakim died, and his son Jehoiakim surrendered. The Babylonians plundered the city and carried away thousands into exile, including a young prophet named Ezekiel. Judah's final king, Zedekiah, defied Babylon, despite the prophet Jeremiah's warnings. In 588 BC, Nebuchadnezzar returned, laying siege to Jerusalem for 2 years. Inside the city, food ran out. Disease spread. Hope was lost. In 586 BC, Babylon destroyed Jerusalem. The mighty walls crumbled, Solomon's temple was reduced to ashes, and the last king of Judah, Zedekiah, was blinded and taken in chains to Babylon. The kingdom of Judah was no more. The people of Judah were carried away into exile. The land was left desolate. But even in judgment, God did not forget his people. In Babylon, a whisper of hope remained, the promise that exile was not the end. The book of 2 Kings ends with a quiet reminder. God's covenant was not broken. Though exile came, restoration would follow. A future king would one day rise from the line of David, bringing true redemption. The story of 2 Kings is a warning, a lesson, and a promise. Will we follow the path of rebellion or the path of righteousness? The choice is ours.
Thank you for joining the time traveler on this journey through history. If you found this story moving, insightful, or worth remembering, please take a moment to support the channel by clicking the like button. It helps more people discover these important stories. And if you'd like to see more documentaries like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Together, we can keep these stories alive for future generations. Your support means the world. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.